Well, good morning, everybody. Can't believe is it Friday? Oh boy, it's Friday. Well, unless I re-upload this video at some point. Always check. You can always tell by just carefully looking at, what I'm presenting, whether or not we're on the same day. And also the live shows obviously are live, right? If it's a premiere, it might be a re-upload, or it could be something that I uploaded, put together and uploaded. Good morning, everybody. So I've been diving deep into this new TV series called Rabbit Hole. And it stars Kiefer Sutherland, whose occupation is basically the head of a corporation, a multi-million-dollar corporation, maybe even multi-billion-dollar. And what does he do? He develops algorithms to manipulate the markets. Corporate espionage. So he's able to control these corporations, take corporations down, go after rich people, and he uses algorithms to do it. And basically what it entails is a very specific scenario that the algorithm comes up with that he can execute. It's a very specific scenario, sometimes involving pairing two people together, arranging a meeting that wasn't supposed to happen. And in fact, in one instance, he frames a corporate CEO by staging a picture of him with a woman who violates conflict of interest protocol. And of course, it causes the company stock to crash and things like this. Now, what is this really about? Well, it's a TV series about targeted individuals. And this will be the new terrorism. Targeting people, using deep fakes, using agents, using blackmail to start to tighten the screws on messaging that they don't want out there. Now, I've come under this kind of attack before in my life, and it's unsettling. You get a person that could say something about you or show something that isn't even true. It's like a deep fake. And so you have to be very careful about this. Now, I'm hitting a glass ceiling on this channel where they're not letting our channel go anywhere past the point that it's at. It's kind of stuck here. No matter how many times you guys share the videos or thumbs up the channel, they're going to suppress it. And this goes hand in hand with the exact themes running through the Rabbit Hole series. It's exactly that. It's how the intelligence arm and the governments manipulate the outcomes of whatever they want to. It could be a person speaking out. It could be a person. It could be a corporation that they want to fail or that they want to buy out that won't sell. There's all kinds of different scenarios within this TV series that fit this. And so it's about targeted individuals. Now, at some point, Kiefer Sutherland finds himself on the other end of his work as he becomes the target. And he goes on the run and he goes through the rabbit hole to try to find out who this person is that's after him, who is the adversary. It's very difficult for him to do. I'm on about the third episode, and I've got some clips and screenshots for you guys as he's trying to figure out who is trying to frame him. Now, during this process, there's all this disclosure. Disclosure is off the rails in this TV series. You hear it right from the horse's mouth in these next few scenes that I'm going to show you as Kiefer Sutherland's father explains how the world really works. Watch.
Algorithms of control. We use them to undermine elections, sway public support, and elect favorable regimes.
Now, what they don't tell you here is that these algorithms of control, not only do they affect governments, but they go all the way down to the individual level. Messaging. People tell me, the Body Code series is so amazing, but yet it never goes viral. Do you think there's a reason for that? It's not because the information is not profound. It's not because it's not edifying and increasing people's faith in the Creator, the true Creator, the God of the Bible. It's because it's being held down and suppressed through these algorithms. So it's not just about governments. It's about themes and messages that they do not want permeating around in cyberspace. They don't want this stuff catching fire because it would literally change the very nature of what they're trying to push, their agenda. And it directly works against their agenda. So they don't like that. You know, I was on an article, a Yahoo article, and they were talking about elections. And the article basically was trying to say that, wow, despite, Biden's poll numbers, he's doing amazing. It's like saying jumbo shrimp, right? Despite bad poll numbers, he's doing amazing. And I wrote down in the comments and I said, this whole thing, well, you got to be careful here, right? You guys know what I want to say. This reality is not real. Everything they tell us, it's all fake. Now, do they like your votes? Of course they do, because it's consent. It gives them a litmus test of how well they're doing in convincing you that all this is real, right? And it also gives your vow. It also gives your consent, which is anti-biblical. That's against the Bible. You're not supposed to swear a vow to anybody. So there's multiple things going on with why they even have a vote. They do it to also make you feel like it's all real. So this goes deeper. Let's keep listening.
All that mattered was that those governments fell in line with U.S. interests. In our early agency days, we developed techniques on how to manipulate populations. You saw the research. We started selling our cutting-edge psyops as a service to foreign governments.
They're literally just telling you. But so few people even realize that. They think that this is just fiction, and it's actually the truth. Now, there's a bit of reverse psychology going on here, because what he's going to say next is that basically truth was used to destabilize society. And that's not true. Well, fake truth is used to destabilize society, but not real truth. Watch.
And to businesses on the side. Chapter 1. Undermine people's faith in the media so they begin to doubt the very nature of the truth. When people stop seeing the other side as human, then human rights ceased to be an obstacle. Chapter 2. Polarize factions in society.
So he's going through the tenets of how the enemy controls humanity. Dehumanize. Well, we saw that happen after Blind 11. You're with us or against us. Anyone against us is a terrorist, and you do not deserve to live. And if there's a little collateral damage, so be it. It's worth it. We're seeing it happen, playing out right now under our eyes with other world conflicts that shall not be talked about. The dehumanization of people and the muddying of the waters of truth.
Chapter 3. Marginalize the intelligentsia. People stop listening to experts and they become malleable. You're going to need chapter 4. Elect a candidate, someone smart, someone charismatic.
Now, what is going on with real truth and fake truth? Now, part of the reason why they gave us the internet and social media was to data dump a bunch of fake truth to, in fact, destabilize people's understanding of the media. So he's correct in that assumption. But what the internet also did was to control the real truth, because they want the fake truth to rise to the top to do exactly what he said, to destabilize the governments. Here's what happens to real truth. Real truth, the algorithms focus on and marginalize so that it has a minimal impact or effect on the rest of society. And this is why it's imperative that we do everything we can to at least hold the algorithms accountable so that we can break the matrix. Essentially, what we have to do on this channel is to overshare. And I know you guys get sick of channels asking you to share and like and thumbs up videos, but you don't understand we're working against an artificial intelligence, a machine, an algorithm. And if you don't do those things, then they'll say, see, nobody shared it. That's why it didn't get recommended or show up. And the truth stays under the boot of the enemy. But if you break the matrix by overdoing it, now I suspect at some point YouTube will make it against their terms of service to even ask for a like or a share. That's coming. They'll say it's not organic. And if you say that in a video, they'll probably give you a strike for it. So how do we break the algorithm? You have to break the matrix. You have to overdo what it is they're asking to do, so that the algorithm at least is held accountable and has no other choice than to acknowledge the irony, right? Because people go, wow, why didn't that video go viral? You know, it was shared by all these people. It was, look at all the thumbs up on it. Why didn't it go viral? Then the algorithm has to adjust, doesn't it? It has to open the gate. And this is why we go live every day, to break the matrix. Why do you think we go live every day at the same time? To show the irony of it. Wow, groundbreaking information every single day at the same exact time. There's no reason why anyone should forget that the show is live. It's at the same exact time. Look at all the likes and thumbs up, brand new information, and look at the number of people that keep coming to the channel. It always stays the same. That's calling out the algorithm. It proves that something's wrong. Now, I could show you the back end of my channel, and you'll see that every single one of our videos has a 98, 99% thumbs up rating. Now, only I can see that, but that would be another reason to show the algorithms, look, something's not right. You know, if you had a 30% thumbs down rating, then you could see how this wasn't resonating, this message. And it has nothing to do with who's blocked on the channel and who's not, because, you know, they would thumbs down the video if they didn't like the information either. So there's a little bit of a snapshot into the matrix, the algorithms, and how they control messaging, how they control other governments, how they control the reality. Let's keep listening.
But someone who can be controlled.
Oh, let me back up, because here he describes chapter 4, which essentially he's describing Trump. Okay, here in this particular sentence, he's describing the Trump presidency. Elect a candidate under the guise of restoring order, and then they control him.
You're going to need chapter 4. Elect a candidate, someone smart, someone charismatic, but someone who can be controlled, under the guise of restoring order.
What's chapter 5?
Now, what are you looking at on your screen here? I haven't done interaction in a while. What is the significance of what you're seeing on your screen in relation to this discussion that he's having about controlling governments and controlling the message? I'll give you a second to look at what's on your screen if you're away from the screen right now. But what is he holding, and what is the significance of all this with respect to the conversation that he's having? Let's go back into the chat and see who gets the answer. Wow. Now understand that the algorithms monitor everything, don't they? No, not a tweezer. No. Nope. They're actually they're eating. There's a clue there. They're eating. Somebody will get it. Chinese. There you go. Barry got it. Those are chopsticks, right? He's holding chopsticks. Now, what's the significance of that with respect to the conversation? I know it's early. I'll give you guys a few minutes and then I'll give you the answer. Okay, so world governments, obviously they want the rest of the world to look like China. China has done the work to control their population. The population is completely subjugated through algorithms, artificial intelligence, and they want the rest of the world to look like China. So he's talking about controlling governments and controlling the world and controlling the citizens as he's holding chopsticks from China. Now, how did this happen to us in America, in a free country, How did algorithms monitoring everything, deleting messages that go against the official line, how did that happen in a free country? We are already like China. They just call it different things. Yes, there is a social credit system in China, and people will say, well, we don't have a social credit system here yet. Actually, we do. We've all heard of all the YouTube channels that have had different parts of their income shut down, right? They just call it something different. They don't call it a social credit system because that would scare people, wouldn't it? They can use that terminology in China because they've already controlled everybody. So they don't care anymore. They just come right out and say it. If you don't behave, you go to the bottom of the social scale. But here they have to wait to use that kind of verbiage. So they just don't talk about it yet, but it's already happening. There have been people that have had their, Patreon shut down. They've had their, all their crowdfunding shut down because of the things that they say. That's a social credit system. We saw a little bit of it when we had COVID and the vaccines. If you didn't get a vaccine, you were treated differently. You weren't allowed to do certain things because of your social beliefs. Right? You might have lost your job. In some instances, some people lost their children in custody because the judge said, "Oh, this is what it's what the government says. If you're not doing it, that might not make you such a great parent." We're already here. They're just not naming it yet. Now, let's keep watching here. Now, at the end of the show, I've got a little fireside chat for you guys from this morning. Let's keep watching here.
There was no chapter 5. But now the country's yours. The bottom line is it's happening right now. A lot faster than I thought it would. Maybe by even the next election.
The algorithms of control.
Now, then the series flashes back to when Kiefer Sutherland and his friend were boys. And Kiefer Sutherland breaks into his dad's safe and he finds his work on algorithms. Algorithms of control. Now, what makes this crazy is that we've been talking about all of this in very high detail. We've had these discussions about the algorithms before they were really talking about algorithms. Why? Because I was experiencing it personally on this YouTube channel. And people thought I was crazy. And I'm like, you guys don't understand. There's a hidden hand, a hidden force. Algorithms suppressing truth. And I know that's hard to believe, but it is the truth. And now they're coming out with it. They're talking about it. They're spelling it out.
Cognitive data formulae to predict and manipulate human behavior. Whatever that means.
Now, next we get even more disclosure. As they depict the pandemic cure as a distraction, they depict the conspiracies around the pandemic cure as a distraction. And they're going to try to unlink it from the rest of the world government control agenda. They're going to try to disassociate the two of those concepts from your mind, to pull them apart, when in actuality, the two agendas are one and the same. Just like the mechanism of control that began after the events of Blind 11.
If you are one of the millions of Americans who believe this to be true, then you are a victim. Billionaires bankroll vaccines, which the NSA, using the 5G spectrum, can use to control us.
What the heck did I just listen to? And he's saying that all of that was a distraction so that these, let's just listen.
To insert nano devices into every American. Massive disinformation operation intended to distract you from the real truth.
And then he's going to tell us the real truth. I believe the two are linked. Absolutely, positively. They don't waste time on something, an operation, if it's not going to lead to the same result.
The real truth, the real conspiracy, the real conspiracy, the real truth, to consolidate their control over every aspect of American society, is that a cabal of the rich and powerful are working behind the scenes. You stare at your screens, oblivious to the fact that their hand is in your pocket. You buy what they want you to buy. You click on what they want you to click on.
Now, never in my life have I done a decode where they just come right out and say this stuff, right? Never in my life. But there you just heard it in their own words. Now, for anyone reviewing this video, I'm not making any claims. I'm just simply playing a fictional story that was on TV. All right? So there's the disclaimer. Now, next you're going to hear them talk about NFT trading cards. You know, the ones that Trump came up with him depicted as superheroes that he sold for lots and lots of money and made lots and lots of money. Well, guess what those were for?
You create an NFT, a cartoon goat smoking a bong, whatever, it costs pennies. Then you declare it's worth $1 million and sell it. Real estate, art, rare wines and whiskeys, expensive things that are one of a kind or non-fungible. Now you're the possessor of $1 million, legitimately valued through the sale of fine art. And involve multiple shell companies in different states and countries. And that's where Gal comes in. He designs the schemes and acts as middleman for anyone looking to move money anonymously. That's the NF and NFT.
We can trace those transactions back to the source.
Yeah, but these transactions are in cryptocurrencies. But the easiest way to launder money is by privately buying and selling certain kinds of assets, with a lot less regulation and tax scrutiny.
So there's no real market value to certain things, just the value agreed upon between two parties. Kind of like using $10 million to buy a $1 million house.
The rich go by different rules. They can make money out of thin air. They use their reach and influence and popularity to induce the rest of us to take part in their scheme. Case in point, non-fungible tokens. Case in point, the NFL football league meme that gets people to gamble and lose. Case in point, politicians, actors, famous people who have Instagram where they get millions and millions of followers and the algorithm pushes those people and they make money, millions and millions of dollars, and then they promote certain things and sponsor certain things. They can make money out of thin air. They can launder that money out of thin air, and the machine allows this to happen. No one gets dragged into court for NFT trading cards, even though they just told you the truth about what they're for. I hope you're waking up to the reality of this world, and that nobody at the top got there because they're talented. They got there because they could be used by the enemy to do what he wants them to do, and that is to keep the rest of us under control. Now, the reason why you and I can't launder money on an NFT trading card, nor would we want to, is because we don't have anybody who wants to buy them. Right? You have to have influence and power over other people to do this stuff. And unless you sell out to it, then you're not going to be given that power, influence, and control. Now, of course, Kiefer Sutherland is depicted as a targeted individual, but the way that they depict him is a slightly crazy and paranoid, irrational individual, pushing along the stereotype so that nobody will take people like him seriously. But here's the silver lining. Being a targeted individual means that you are being used by the Most High. He's using you, and the enemy does not like it. You might not realize how the Most High will be using you for these end times. The best thing you can do is figure out why you're being targeted. Figure out why the Most High wants to use you, and then realize that and walk in those shoes. There is a reason why you're being targeted. So stand in faith and boldness and not fear and not paranoia. No weapon shall prosper, and God will protect his chosen ones against the enemy. You're here for a reason, and it'll all make sense once you realize who the King of Kings is. You see, the enemy wants to squash all the gifted people who oppose his system, or who will play a supernatural role in these end times. He wants to squash you. But once you get the Most High on your side, no weapon shall prosper. You know, I remember when I first woke up, and I was a bit paranoid, thinking someone was going to, sneak into my house and pretend like I suicided myself. But very quickly, that feeling wore off as I realized that day after day, I would just boldly speak the truth on my YouTube channel, and nothing ever happened. And so guess what? There's a field of protection. Call it what you want, angels or whatever, protecting those who walk in the Lord's steps. And I did make a vow to the Lord. You're allowed to make a vow to the Lord, not to any other man. And I said, show me the truth, Lord. Show me why my life was so messed up. Show me why I feel so lost, why this life makes absolutely no sense to me, why the mean and sneaky and corrupt among us are the ones that prosper in this reality, and the good people in this reality have a boot on their neck. And I begged God to show me the truth. And I said, if you did that, I would never stop telling the rest of the people the truth. And here we are 11 years later, and I'm still telling the truth. So there's some protection, isn't there? And he can protect each and every one of you as well. Now, let's get to the fireside. This is from this morning. Good morning, everybody. It's just a few minutes before the show, and thought I would record for you guys a little fireside chat. I got these benches up. The block bench, you'll be able to see this a little bit better once I get this fire going. And one of you actually recommended that I do these block benches, and then I made these little I took these rounds, and this will be where you could set drinks on and stuff. Now the fire ring, some people said, oh, that's galvanized steel, it's got fumes. Well, according to them, as long as you're in a well ventilated area, these are sold as fire rings, you're okay. It's just welders who are welding this stuff in a place that doesn't have ventilation can run into problems with the fumes. Let's get this fire going. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what exactly we're doing here, right? Because sometimes there's a bit of confusion about what this project is actually really about, okay? Obviously, many different people live in different parts of the world and don't have the freedoms, some of the freedoms that we have here in America. But ask yourself why Americans have these freedoms, right? We have these freedoms because we are the policemen of the world. So they've given Americans this freedom so that we will want to go fight and control other countries because we think we're defending something, right? That's the truth of it. It's not because, we're some kind of a noble country. We're being manipulated. When you send your children off to war, you're sending them off to a lie. How do I know this? Because the Bible says that the devil rules this world. And if he rules this world, that means he rules the most powerful country in the world. So, the two don't jive unless you come to the realization that we're being manipulated and controlled. I hope this is making sense to some people, because it can get very convoluted and it can get very confusing unless you go back to the basics. The basics are the Bible, which says that the enemy offered Jesus riches and the kingdoms of the world. Jesus declined that. So any man who accepts that is working for the enemy, because he has accepted the riches of the world, right? Now, what does that mean for all of us? Well, it means we're supposed to be building an ark. Now, there was a little bit of confusion about that as well, because not everybody's going to build a homestead. Your ark might be different than other people's ark, correct? An ark is a mindset. The mindset of how you live your life, how you're preparing, how you are thinking, your thinking, and every single choice that you make, okay? That choice will lead you down a path, and that path could lead you to a homestead at some point. But if you're not even in that thought process, you'll never understand. You'll never get there. You'll never be prepared, because you're always having your faith in the wrong things. The beast. You're having your faith in the incorrect places. Right? So, when you run a race, a lot of people say, imagine the finish line. I don't do that. I imagine the stages, each step of the way. Now, on my Facebook, I uploaded, it's gonna be a big fire, you guys. Can't wait to light this up. On my Facebook, I uploaded a picture of me and Mark in France in 2018. And I'm sitting next to Mark in a homestead that his father built. Well, he purchased one of them. The other one he built himself. And I remember thinking to myself, let's light this up. When I was sitting at Mark's house, what a lot of people didn't realize is that essentially I was homeless. Yes, I had a home through an arrangement with Mark to basically take care of the properties. And I will forever be indebted to Mark for that. But before that, I was living at my mother's house with no clear plan of what life was going to hold for me. In other words, I was going on faith. And God told me to stick with the YouTube channel. He says there was no clear direction to do anything else. And I remember people in my life thought I was crazy. My mom kept trying to tell me to, oh, you should go be a teacher and things like this. Because to see where I was in life compared to where I had ended up, from the outside looking in, it looked like I was the least. Here I was, focused on exposing lies of the enemy and trying to spread the gospel to as many people as possible without a true income. And from the outside looking in the world standards, I had failed from where my previous place was in life. My previous place in life was a pharmaceutical rep, making 6 figures, raising a family, owning homes in California. And I gave all that up. I sold everything to follow him And my belongings could fit in the back of my truck for many years. And I'm telling you this because in my mind, I knew that God wanted us to prepare for the last days. He wanted us to build an ark. And because I kept that in the forefront of my mind and also learned a lot of valuable homesteading lessons, helping Mark with his homestead, I just kept that in my mind with the chickens and everything else you guys experienced through that journey when I was in France. Now, very few people understand the process of that and how all that went down because I didn't really share it. Because sometimes people are going to see what they want to see. I remember a lot of people tuned out during the France years. And there was some jealousy. I'm like, you don't understand. This is hard work. And in fact, Mark and I had the door wide open for anyone who wanted to come and share in the France experience, but nobody came because of what it entailed. It entailed complete faith and no way to make an income and going to a foreign country and living off of just whatever was available. Now, God blessed me with a tiny bit of money during those years, but then I lost my YouTube channel. I think my YouTube channel was bringing in about $300 a month, and I gave all of that to Mark for the utilities, and my mother was sending me $100 a month for groceries and fuel. That's what my life was like just 5 or 6 years ago. But I kept the vision of the ark in the front of my mind. And because I did that, I feel as though God opened a door that I wasn't even expecting to open. A door that I'm still in shock and amazement about to this day. I never ever thought that God would bless me with something like this. Now, this might manifest in different ways for different people, but it starts as an idea and a thought. Not everyone's going to get to have a homestead. But if enough of us have homesteads in the last days, we'll be able to help the people that don't, correct? Don't let the enemy try to have you focused only on the finish line and the impossible task of what it would be like to try to do something. Because that's what he wants you to do, to get discouraged, so that you're not part of the last days remnant to help shield and protect the flock from all of the adversary's weapons. He wants you in the middle of the weapons. He wants you as a target. Okay? Now, I've told my friends that live around here, if it all hits the fan, come here. You'll have a nice warm cabin. But they're already kind of set up in their own places. They don't really need me, but if any of us need each other, we can go to each other's houses, can't we? And we could probably help at least 2 or 3 other people each, if it came to that. But if no one's trying, and everyone just gives up, or people hate on the process, or think that they can just go on faith. You know, Noah had a lot of faith, didn't he? But what if Noah would have sat back and said, you know what, God? I'm not going to build the ark. I'm just going to wait for you to rescue us. And God's like, you need to build the ark. And he's like, no. You're God and you love me. I'm the pure bloodline. You're going to protect me no matter what, right? That is what I compare some last days Christians to. They have faith, but they think that their faith does not have to translate into action. They just think they're going to be rescued without having to do anything, without having to give anything up. And sometimes it's to the point where some people think that they can still be fully invested in the beast system and that God will still save them, even though they're understanding God. And these last days. Did we get knocked off, you guys? Are you guys there? Okay. Huh. Are you guys still there? Just give me a heads up and I'll continue. We'll finish up here in a second. Are you there? Uh-oh. Let's see here. You guys still there? Says we're still live. Uh-oh. Looks like everything's frozen or something, huh? Let me make sure we're there, and then we'll keep going, you guys. Oh, we're buffering. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's finish this up. Looks like we got some buffering going on. Of course, we're buffering, right?
And what's truly needed to make it through it. That's when God will open up doors for you. When he sees your will to serve him, to get out of the beast, that's when he will start to open doors for you to get out of the beast. But if you're not in the mindset to get out of the beast, why would he give you that gift if you wouldn't even appreciate it? So hopefully all this is making sense. I love each and every one of you. And that's about it. Much love, everybody.
All right, you guys. So I just got a message from Cheryl saying that we were buffering. There's nothing wrong with my internet, and I just checked my stream quality, and everything's supposed to be good. So again, the algorithms come after popular messages that they don't want to take hold. And so that is the problem. And this is why they interrupted this very special message. Now the chat almost looks frozen as well. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Let's try to refresh this here. Let's see if that works. All right. There's the chat. All right. So when did it start buffering? And maybe I'll replay some of this for you guys. When did it start buffering? You see, they don't want people thinking about coming out of their system. It works directly against their system. They don't want you doing this or even thinking about it because it goes directly against their bottom dollar, doesn't it? They don't want you hunting and fishing for your food. About 4 minutes ago. Okay, when you said beast system. When I talked about the ark. Okay, what was the last 4 minutes ago maybe? Okay, maybe I'll play the last 4 minutes. Did it completely cut out? About 10 minutes ago. Okay, well, let's go back and play some of this. I want you guys to miss out on this message.
The arc in the front of my mind. And because I did that, I feel as though God opened a door that I wasn't even expecting to open. A door that I'm still in shock and amazement about to this day. I never ever thought that God would bless me with something like this. Now, this might manifest in different ways for different people, but it starts as an idea and a thought. Not everyone's going to get to have a homestead. But if enough of us have homesteads in the last days, we'll be able to help the people that don't, correct? Don't let the enemy try to have you focused only on the finish line and the impossible task of what it would be like to try to do something. Because that's what he wants you to do, to get discouraged, so that you're not part of the last days remnant to help shield and protect the flock from all of the adversary's weapons. He wants you in the middle of the weapons. He wants you as a target. Okay? Now, I've told my friends that live around here, if it all hits the fan, come here. You'll have a nice warm cabin. But they're already kind of set up in their own places. They don't really need me, but if any of us need each other, we can go to each other's houses, can't we? And we could probably help at least 2 or 3 other people each, if it came to that. But if no one's trying, and everyone just gives up, or people hate on the process, or think that they can just go on faith. You know, Noah had a lot of faith, didn't he? But what if Noah would have sat back and said, you know what, God? I'm not going to build the ark. I'm just going to wait for you to rescue us. And God's like, you need to build the ark. And he's like, no, you're God and you love me. I'm the pure bloodline. You're going to protect me no matter what, right? That is what I compare some last days Christians to. They have faith, but they think that their faith does not have to translate into action. They just think they're going to be rescued without having to do anything, without having to give anything up. And sometimes it's to the point where some people think that they can still be fully invested in the beast system and that God will still save them, even though their actions are invested in Satan's economy and Satan's world. So that's just a little fireside chat for you guys, things to think about. Again, this isn't judgment. This isn't telling you you're doing something wrong. This is a statement of love. This is a statement of love because tougher times are coming. And the things that you think you can rely on, you won't be able to rely on anymore. So start thinking in the mindset of, wow, every decision and choice means something. Are you making decisions and choices to stay in the beast? Or are you making decisions and choices to leave the beast? What does it mean to leave the beast? What are these choices I'm talking about? Let me get specific here. Yesterday I mentioned it could even be something as simple as the type of spouse that you choose. You know? What is the enemy's version of a good spouse? That would be a money maker, right? Someone who makes a lot of money, maybe a doctor, a lawyer, someone who's influential in their community. That's the enemy's version of a good spouse. Okay? And many people will stay with people like that regardless of how they're treated, because to them that's a good spouse, right? What is God's version of a good spouse? That would be somebody like Noah, right? Who is willing to help other people, his family, who was faithful and did the hard work that God asked him to do, even though it seemed impossible. Someone who knew the outdoors life. Now I'm still learning this. I never would have thought that I could build a deck like this, or the stairs that you see in front of you, or chop a log in half with an axe. I never thought I'd be able to do those things. And for those of you that were in the France years, you remember the struggles of me trying to learn some of this stuff. I was like a fish out of water. Remember the bed that I tried to make? Remember the chicken coop box that I tried to make that I filled with insulation that the chickens rejected? I made a lot of mistakes, didn't I? But I didn't give up. And now I still don't know everything. I'm still far from knowing everything, but I know I could survive out here. There's animals everywhere. There's a generator. There's food. There's acorns all over the ground. If I needed to make an acorn paste tortillas, I could do that. There's mushrooms everywhere. Wild edibles. I'm still learning about wild edibles. And all kinds of other cool stuff. And so now I feel more confident of a man to be able to make it through anything that the enemy throws at me. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Make small choices every day. It might be the location of a job that you choose that may be close to the country. It may be, like I said, the kind of spouse that you choose. It may be simply what kind of food that you like to eat, or your feelings about taking an animal from the forest. All those little things matter. And as you start to converge on the singularity of understanding God and these last days and what's truly needed to make it through it, that's when God will open up doors for you. When he sees your will to serve him, to get out of the beast, that's when he will start to open doors for you to get out of the beast. But if you're not in the mindset to get out of the beast, why would he give you that gift if you wouldn't even appreciate it? So hopefully all this is making sense. I love each and every one of you. And That's about it. Much love, everybody.
So I'm not sure how much of that repeated, how much got cut off. Hopefully when I played it back, some of it overlapped a bit. If it didn't, I could go back and play the first part of that again, or if it did not overlap. So somebody give me a heads up and let me know if it did overlap, so that I made sure and played the whole video, because that was a very important video. Yes, get out of Babylon is what it amounts to. I got it all. Thank you, Jared. Thank you for the clear answer there. All right, let's go into the chat here. Do you guys have any questions about this? Again, my intent is not to guilt trip people who don't have a homestead. That was never ever my intent, or to shame you for not being able to do it. Obviously, there are many parts of the world where that's not even legal to do. This is about small decisions. It's about individual ideas. Okay? That's what this is about. It's about every step of the way not being part of this world, of this beast system. And every decision and choice that you make either is for the beast or against it. Now, it's probably impossible to be completely free from the beast. Obviously, I'm not, right? I have to pay taxes on this property. I still shop at Walmart, right? But I'm not feeding the beast in ways that I would have normally in my previous life. So it's a spectrum, isn't it? The enemy wants you to think everything's black and white, and you do this or you do that. No, it's a spectrum of choices. Okay, which lead you on a path that makes it even easier to make those choices, right? Once you're on the path, the choices get easier and easier and easier. But if you stay in the bondage of Egypt, under the thumb of the enemy, then it'll be very hard to make those choices. In other words, prime example, during the pandemic, you had a choice. Either you take this or you don't. Either you have a job or you don't. And that one choice would affect the rest of your life. Whether or not you could work, whether or not you could pay your car payment, whether or not you could do all these other things, right? Do you see how hard of a choice that was for a lot of people? A lot of people gave in. But every little choice that you make to get out of Babylon, to get out of the beast, then all of a sudden the choices get a lot easier. Right? I hope this is all making sense, because it's the truth. And I hope that the example that I gave about Noah, and that our actions also have to follow our faith. You know, there's countless stories in the Bible of people that left everything to put things into action. Gosh, I could go on for hours. The instructions God gave the Israelites to build the tabernacle, that was faith put into action. Lot and his wife escaping from Sodom and Gomorrah, that was faith put into action. Nineveh and Jonah in the belly of the well, put into action, faith put into action. And it goes on and on and on. You can't just have faith and then no actions in your life reflect that faith. Right? So, I love each and every one of you, and I'm sorry for the interruption. That was weird. We just started buffering out of nowhere. But as we were just talking about targeted individuals, you get on a roll and you start actually affecting change of the matrix. You break the matrix and they break your channel. They interrupt it. They interrupt the flow to throw you off the track. But God says no weapon shall prosper. So the people that need to hear this video will hear this video. I love each and every one of you. And I'll see you on Sunday. We're going to be talking about volcanism reaching an all-time high. Look at this graph from the 1800s to the 2000s. Unbelievable. Now they try to say it's not, but we'll get into all this. This is all about the rise of Tlaloc, the rise of the volcanoes. And this can only mean one thing, that we are in the last days. So we're going to break all that down on Sunday. Thanks you guys, everybody, for waiting as we went through that. That also helps to break the algorithms, break the matrix. All right. We are not going to let them control this message. All right. Simply won't. Anyway, I love each and every one of you. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend and a great Sabbath. Take care, everybody.